Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for the invitation to participate in today's meeting. Vincente, thank you so much for your hospitality and for the engagement that I've had the opportunity to have with the Fundación del Pino. It's always a real pleasure to work with all of you and with the whole team. I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person, but I'm really happy to be beaming in today from rather snowy Boston. My name's Fiona Murray. I'm a professor of innovation and entrepreneurship at MIT, and I had the great pleasure of working with Oyana and Lars as colleagues on this report on the deep tech ecosystem in Spain. I just thought I would take a few minutes to share some of the key concepts and the key findings of that report before you have a wider, rich conversation. First, I'd like to say a little bit about deep tech. So deep tech, I think, is an important word, an important category that's emerged over the last decade. And it's really a reflection, I think, of the central role that we recognize science and technology is now playing in economic growth. If you wound the clock back perhaps 10 years, we might say, yes, that's right, our investments in research and development and on ensuring that our country, our nation is at the forefront of science and technology are really important and are likely to spill over into widespread economic prosperity. But I think what we recognize today is that science and technology and the breakthroughs in science and technology are not just generally good for our economies, but in fact are the wellspring of solutions to some of our most important problems. And so deep tech is really a reflection of the fact that we need these deep tech solutions to some of the biggest missions and challenges of our time, whether they be around productivity, around climate, around energy security, food security, or healthcare. And so if we need these deep tech solutions, why do we need to even give them a category? Why don't we just think about them as any other source of innovation or innovative solution? I think what we're trying to say when we talk about deep tech is we want to distinguish it from digital. So we might think about deep tech versus digital technology. And what is different about deep tech is really the deep pool of capital that we need in order to take a deep tech idea from inception all the way through to impact. We actually need a lot of capital. Deep tech is typically physical. It requires atoms, not just bits. It's often about building and making things. It requires existing fabs or for us to build new kinds of factories and production technologies. And so we need significant pools of capital to do that. But it's not just deep pools of capital. It's also deep wells of time and patience. So deep tech tends to take time that you can speed up with more money, but not simply that. It takes time to test a new medicine. It takes time to build and test a new piece of infrastructure or a new autonomous vehicle. And lastly, it takes deep wells of expertise. And I think that expertise is why it is that when we look at deep tech, and in particular when we look at deep tech ventures, so that is those startup ventures whose sort of core mission is to take sort of science and technology at the frontier and use it as the source of a deep tech solution. We've got to ask ourselves, what can we do to support those ventures? They're going to have a long and complex journey. They need significant capital, significant time, and extraordinary sorts of expertise and special people. So those deep tech ventures can again be transformative to our economies. I think of a company in Germany like BioNTech, who was instrumental in developing the COVID vaccine. Company like Commonwealth Fusion Systems in Boston that is trying to develop commercial fusion energy. Think of companies like that and recognize that if those are new startup ventures, how do we support them? If we step back in all our work that we've done at MIT, we've recognized that an innovation ecosystem is absolutely essential to supporting startup ventures. And the deeper the tech, the more important the innovation ecosystem. If I'm just starting a small business, I can probably find anyone, anywhere to kind of support me. Lots of small towns and villages and precincts and provinces will have some of the support mechanisms. We could always make those better, and those are very important for our economy. But as soon as I'm moving into digital tech and then to deep tech, the need for a specialized ecosystem to support what I'm doing and a community to be specialized in its support of those deep tech ventures becomes absolutely paramount. In our model of innovation ecosystems, we reflect on the fact that we need 5 key stakeholders to support an ecosystem. Those stakeholders are the entrepreneur themselves, So those all-important people who are founding and growing those ventures. But we also need risk capital. So we need risk capital providers who are going to provide some of the risk capital needed for that venture to basically go on its idea to impact journey. The deeper the tech I'm trying to do, the more specialized the kinds of investors I need, because they, as I've said, they have to be patient and they need to really care about the mission and the market at the end. I need the universities. So the universities continue to be of central importance. The universities have to be at the table, not simply to be where ideas get generated and where science and technology is done in the lab, but also as we think about training the next generation of PhDs and postdocs. And then there are two other stakeholders at the table, the government, and that can mean city government, it can mean province or state government, and it can mean national government, who are not only sort of setting the rules and the policies, but are also providing support. They're providing things like tax policies and visas and so on and so forth. And lastly, large corporations. Again, in deep tech, there's a lot of expertise about scaling up. And it's often that capacity to scale up that some of our most important large corporations have. They're also often large customers and they're potential customers for some of these deep tech solutions. And so our ecosystem model has taken us from the classic triple helix of industry, university, government to a 5-stakeholder model when we think about entrepreneurs and risk capital, as well as large corporations, universities, and government. And so we know that we have to have those 5 stakeholders at the table. And in the work that MIT has done with Fundación del Pino, with Madrid and their organization MIDE through our REAP program, with our team from Andalusia, and with a number of colleagues, we've definitely found that having these 5 stakeholders at the table can make a transformative difference. And they need to come together to basically support the types of deep technology, but also the entrepreneurial venture building that we need in order for us to really build successful deep tech ventures that will not only solve some of our nation's problems, but that frankly will solve some of the problems and the challenges that we face across our allies in the West and also across the globe. We think this is a really exciting and important time. I think there was a time when we identified and associated ecosystems simply with Silicon Valley and perhaps then with Kendall Square in Boston. What we're seeing and what I have seen in the last year or so and more is the emergence of very, very strong innovation ecosystems across Europe and in other countries such as Singapore. And so we have not only models for us to learn from, but we also have a growing global community of those 5 stakeholder groups coming together to work on innovation ecosystems. And I'm incredibly pleased that this conversation is happening in Spain as you start to think about how to build an innovation ecosystem in Spain that can support both your digital and your deep tech ventures and can support the aspirations of those entrepreneurs and help create the kinds of jobs and prosperity and solutions that are incredibly important to us. So with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to Oyana and to the rest of the team. And I trust that the rest of your conversation is very successful. Thank you.